It's football at 4 time. Let's go to Geoff Mosher. And, of course, Mosher joins me right now on a Mosher Monday edition of Football at 4 on the Sports Bass live on 97.3 ESPN. What's going on, Moshe?
Nothing, Mike. That Zach Wheeler news is just a real gut punch, man. That's just, maybe there's something with this Phillies team that can do the Carson Wentz thing where we all need, and they can pull together and win it. It's because it's, like you said, hard to see Zach Wheeler coming back now. And without Zach, it's hard to see them winning anything.
Yeah, it kind of feels that way. We actually have a poll question up at Mike Gill Show. And we asked if the Wheeler can't return to pitch, can the Phillies win the World Series? 40% say no, you need the ace. 32% said they weren't winning with him. So you got 72% of people who really said we weren't winning with them, and now you're really not winning with them. 26% said yes, still good enough pitching, but we'll see what ends up happening there. But you're right, it is a gut punch. I mean, and it's similar like if the Eagles were to lose a guy like A.J. Brown. And I want to start with A.J. Brown, who's still standing on the sideline. Now, it doesn't seem like Brown's season is in jeopardy here. But now the fact that he's still on the sideline not practicing, do we read into that, or is this overly precautionary? Are we starting to think that his debut on September 4th could be in question?
You remember last year he wound up missing some time early on, hurt his hamstring against Green Bay in the opener, had to miss a couple of weeks. And, the whole objective is to get him to be healthy and 100% when that first game happens on September, 4th against the Cowboys. So they're not going to stress it. He's been out there. I think that's the good sign is you see him out there. It's not like he's inside getting treatment all day long. He's been laughing it up with the team, throwing the football around. So to me, there's not a whole bunch of red flags at all. I don't think they feel the need to get him out there on the practice field. And honestly, they're trying to take a look right now. I mean, they have a ton of wide receiver decisions they have to make, Mike, between Darius Cooper, who's been an incredible story as a rookie free agent. Now Johnny Metchie has been added to the mix. And, of course, Terrace Marshall was playing well before getting hurt. So they've got, really it's helping them get an evaluation of other guys with the first team with A.J. Brown not there. Not saying that they don't want him to be there, but I'm saying there's no reason for them to stress it.
All right, you brought up John Metchie III. He was traded for yesterday. Some people saying, whoa, you traded for a wide receiver. Read the tea leaves on this one. Is this a guy that just taking a flyer on? Is this a guy that there's another domino to follow? Is this a guy you bring in because you're worried about Brown? Are they not happy with some of the guys they have? A lot of possibilities on why you make a deal like this. I know it's a guy that they liked in the 2022 draft. You say, hey, this is a guy with a lot of talent, hasn't been able to get on the field much in Houston. So why this trade?
So it's really a lot of it has to also do with Houston. Just like with the Raiders wanted Thomas Booker, and they were willing to trade Ja'Cory Bennett because Bennett was just not in their plans, and Booker was because of that whole Christian Wilkins fiasco that they went through. Well, the Texans lost the tight end, and they weren't deep in their minds at that position to begin with. So they needed tight end depth and somebody that can come in there and realistically compete and play on that team. And obviously the Eagles were a team that had the depth, which again shows you the value of just signing guys to one-year deals and stockpiling as much talent as you can. So that precipitated a conversation where it's like, all right, you guys have tight end depth. We have wide receiver depth. The Texans have a very good one in Nico Collins, one of the best, right? They drafted two. They have Christian Kirk now, who's going to play that Z/slot role for them. And Metchie became an odd man out. And Adam Kaplan made a great point on the podcast. He's spoken to Bill Polian about this a lot, former great GM. If you have an opportunity to just give yourself a player at a valuable position who's you may have liked at one point or another, bring him in. There's no cost to you to do it. Harrison Bryant wasn't going to make the Eagles. It was very clear that their top two were Goddard and Calcaterra, and Kylan Granson had been on the kickoff coverage and I believe return units, so he was contributing on special teams, which is what a third tight end does a lot. And it'll be between him and E.J. Jenkins for that last spot. So Harrison Bryant became expendable, and now you bring in Metchie, and you kick the tire. See if he can bring you some value. It'll be hard because now I mentioned all the receivers that they have in camp, but nothing wrong with bringing in another one with a good pedigree.
I mean, obviously the pedigree is what it is in terms of he missed a full year because of his battle with leukemia. Then he came back and was okay. I mean, he's not been like, whoa, look at this guy. But do you see him as a guy who could have a role on this team? I mean, they brought in Dotson last year, and people were like, man, they stole Dotson. He had minimal role, if much at all. Do you think Metchie do they envision him having a role on this team?
Well, he has to practice and play well first. And, like you said, he hasn't been very productive since missing that whole year to come back from leukemia, which in itself is a great comeback. When he was coming out of college, teams I spoke to really loved his ability to run routes, his lateral quickness, thought he could be a super slot receiver if you put him there, make him moves. Not really an X, not a big guy. And the Eagles do have what I think is a need for a pure traditional slot receiver. And one thing I emphasized coming out of the preseason game was, do you see how Anaya Smith caught that touchdown from the slot? It wasn't just an unrealistic scenario you won't see in the regular season. You'll see that. He caught it running a two-way go on a slot corner in man situations. And you see a lot of man low red zone because that's when teams like to blitz. So if Metchie can prove to be a guy that they think has a lot of value there, then possibly he could make the team. I still think it's a little bit of an uphill climb, and part of me wonders if they're thinking that they can kind of get away with, having him in camp and then, getting him on the practice squad after they waive him. We'll see. But like I said, there's a lot of competition here now, and it's sort of a may the best man win. But I do think Johnny Wilson and Anaya Smith have showed out pretty well in camp, along with Darius Cooper.
Yeah, that one's interesting. I mean, I know a lot of people are laughing like, oh, can he play corner? And we'll get into that cornerback battle in a little bit. But I am kind of intrigued, what this means. You bring in a guy like Metchie who, obviously played at Alabama, high-profile player there, and then really did not do much so far. You brought up the Anaya Smith catch. I have that on my list of 5 things that really stood out because that's a play that the Eagles have not run a lot, that little inside slant to a real slot. They just haven't had a real slot receiver. And I don't know, Smith had one catch like that in the first preseason game for a touchdown. Then he gets another one here. And I'm thinking, man, can he have a role doing that? And do they now envision Metchie as maybe a better version of Smith who's had some drop problems like everybody else did on Saturday?
Yeah. And, if you remember, Anaya Smith, I think his first touchdown from his real one in the regular season last year, that came from Tanner McKee, I believe was another red zone touchdown on a similar kind of play. So, like a couple of years ago, do you remember when the Eagles acquired Dorian Green-Beckham in a trade, and everybody was like, "Oh, we're getting this great player who was a second-round pick, and he's amazing." And I kind of threw water on it. I didn't think it was going to be great. Then he caught a touchdown pass in the preseason out wide against a 5'9" fourth-string corner, but nobody wanted to take that into account, and everybody kind of came at me and said, "See, you're going to be able to use this guy in the red zone." And I kept saying, there's no way the Colts would ever put in man-to-man situation a 5'9" corner on a receiver who has DGB's physical skill set. But unlike in the opposite, like I'm saying, what you saw against Anaya Smith on Saturday was a realistic scenario where you're man-on-man against a slot corner. Now, maybe it's a better slot corner in the NFL, but it really doesn't matter. You're running a two-way go. The corner has to be really, really good to know whether you're going to be breaking out or breaking in. So the point I'm trying to make is that was a realistic play, and that's how you can use Anaya Smith. And don't forget, Anaya Smith's a punt returner. I don't know that Johnny Metchie has done that. So I do think it still gives Anaya the leg up that he can be a natural slot. You can use him as a punt returner. He's a draft pick, a Howie Roseman draft pick. So I think those kind of things give him a little bit of a leg up. And I think he's had a good camp. He hasn't had too many drop issues as he did last time. And I would say the pass that he caught a touchdown on was thrown a little bit behind him, and he still was able to reel it in and score.
No, I like the play. I have it listed as one of the 5 things that stood out to me in a very snooze fest of a game. Anaya Smith catching that ball, body control, catching it first, and then getting into the end zone. All right. Moshe, I mentioned, can he play corner, Metchie? Who can play corner? Saturday we saw Adoree Jackson get 21 snaps. We saw Ringo get about 30. We saw Jacorian Bennett and Mac McWilliams both get about 50% of the snaps in the game. Today, Vic Fangio was asked, has anybody won that job? He said no. He was asked if he's disappointed that no one's won the job. He said not yet. He did mention Bennett by name. Jackson got the first-team reps today. McWilliams got some first-team reps, but not Ringo. Give us an expository on the CB2 spot.
Well, not only that, but Ringo also got third-team reps. So it's almost like, a double insult to injury. Listen, you know the phrase, Mike. If you got like 3 quarterbacks, you got no quarterback. If you got 4 cornerbacks, you don't have one cornerback who is your starter. So that's the situation they're in. I have a hard time thinking that if this thing shakes out the same way it's been right now, that Howie Roseman's going to be looking out there for a corner, or like a legit starting corner. But until that moment, until Vic is certain that he doesn't have a guy, then it's Adoree Jackson, Ja'Cory Bennett, Achille Ringo. And at this point, Ringo made another play in the preseason game that showed you some of his deficiencies. We saw in the first game, right, where it was Jamar Chase who caught the pass along the sideline, and Ringo was a little slow to get there, but then he couldn't wrap up the tackle at the ankles. Ringo just doesn't have these great fluid hips, and he gave up a third down pass because he got caught up in all this traffic of a crossing route because he just doesn't move laterally as well as some guys. So it looks now, we'll see what goes on the next few days.
Yeah.
Looks like Ja'Cory Bennett and Adoree Jackson are going to duke it out for a little while, and we'll see if Ja'Cory can make his move now.
I'm putting my money on Ja'Cory Bennett. That's number one. Number two, I liken Achille Ringo to the pitcher who has velo but can't throw strikes. He has the live and electric arm, and he just can't throw strikes. And you're like, whatever happened to that guy? Ringo is the guy, right? He's the athlete. He's the guy that has all the tools, and then you're just like, why? Why can't you put it together? Because he does show flashes of brilliance at times with his athleticism.
Yeah. That's a little, flashes of brilliance I've yet to see from Achille Ringo. But you're right. He's shown you that he's a good athlete and can play out there. But I feel like we have not seen really good moments from Achille Ringo outside of like OTA practices, Adam calls that double A. I totally believe it. I agree with him on that. I make nothing out of, I don't even make much out of training camp, but you have to start the evaluation process somewhere. And at least that's, real intense practices. And I just don't think he stands out enough.
All right. Safety, Makuba, interception, return for a touchdown, fumble recovery. Hey, this guy's got a knack for the ball. Nick Sirianni said after the game on Saturday. Did you see enough to say, I think Makuba is going to be the safety, or is that job still up for grabs?
Well, I've always thought if he's healthy and performing his duties adequately or to enough, that he would be the starter because he's a second-round pick and a rookie and this year, and this coaching staff wanted him, so that helps. I wrote this for Philly Voice. I think that pick six was fantastic and really helped him. But we have to acknowledge that on that play, as Gabriel is rolling to his left, he's really looking for the tight end. And Ojulari is doing such a good job of covering that tight end, and not just cover, but getting physical, forcing Gabriel to have to I can't make that throw to him. I'm going to go for Deontay. I'm guessing he was going then for Deontay, or he was still trying to thread it there. But either way, what really jumped out of that play to me was Ojulari, who had a good game, by the way. He had a really nice 2 pass rushes.
He's on my list. Ojulari's on my list.
Now, the only thing he didn't do well was he did not maintain his backside discipline on that end around that went for, I think, 16 yards. That he's got to do a better job of that. But
are you ever thinking an end around is happening in a preseason game?
Well, I wouldn't normally, but the Browns ran 2 shoot and ladder plays in the joint practices. So I guess the Eagles should have seen something like that coming.
True.
But no, I think Makuba, who, again, got some first-team run today, let's see how he stacks the next few practices, plays. He'll play against the Jets because Vic said the competing players will play in that preseason game and see from there. I think he's got a good chance to start in the nickel.
All right, another one on my list. Ojulari was on my list as well. Would be Jahad Campbell getting a sack, but he does it as an edge. And that's a little bit different of how they deployed him in that it's early in the game, and you saw a different look right off the bat. Now, Right now, it seems that he's the starting off-ball linebacker next to Bond. So are you still trying to figure out what they're going to do with Jahad Campbell?
Figuring out, no. I'm projecting at this point. And he continues to show up and flash and be the perfect kind of complement to Zach Bond, because he can shoot the gap. And you saw him get the sack. That was on a sim pressure, or what they call a creeper pressure, where he's really the fourth rusher in a four-man rush, which is not technically a blitz, but you saw Uche drop into coverage on that. And what that does is that messes up a protection scheme. And when you have a guy who can get downhill as fast as Campbell, you're going to make a lot of disruption. So I think he's got a chance to sort of have an impact in a different way on this defense this year that Cooper DeJean had on the defense last year, which is just bringing like an electricity to it that you wouldn't get with Jeremiah Trotter Jr. Now, no offense to JT, because he can ball. He can play. They got a really good player there who has good instincts and can be rangy and make the plays, but he is not the athlete that Jahad Campbell is, and that really jumps out.
Well, and it's funny because one of the stories has been the Eagles have linebackers. They have like 4 of them. This is unbelievable.
It really is. And when Nakobe Dean comes back, they'll have 5 of them. So, who are these Eagles? Who are you, and what have you done with my Eagles?
Right. Smile Mondon also looks like he can actually play a little bit there as well. You take a look at the edge rusher spot. You mentioned Ojulari. How do you feel about that now, 2 games in of the preseason? I would imagine that Ojulari, Uche, both of those guys make it, or only one? Are they battling each other?
So. I think so, but I will tell you, the guy they got from the Browns, Ogbu, they call him Ogbo, right?
Mm-hmm, yep.
He's had some, I don't know where he is as a run defender. He's a good pass rusher. He's got some speed around the edges. It's a guy you'd like to keep, especially if he can contribute on special teams. He might be battling it out there with Patrick Johnson for that 5th role. But Patrick Johnson's he has great camps every year and is a good special team player. So one of those 2 will probably be the 5th. But, yeah, I would think Uche and Ojulari are your 3 and 4 in some order.
I think on the offensive side of the ball, really the only question is if Landon Dickerson can't play, do we have a battle at left guard?
Well, before you left, I think we were talking about this, and then when you're gone, I said, listen, I appreciate Brett Toth. He's been around for 7 years. He has impressed Jeff Stoutland with his perseverance. He, is not a very good when he has to play center because his snaps aren't very good. But I think the Eagles are doing the right thing in that, it's your job to lose. So they didn't immediately, when Landon Dickerson went down, say, all right, we got to get somebody else to left guard. They gave Toth a shot, but I have to squint really hard to see Brett Toth on the 53 and being the first guy up at left guard. And if you saw today, Darian Kennard took some first-team left guard reps. That's a guy that's younger, more development upside, was with the team all last year, played some guard and tackle. Matt Pryor, I still think, can play left guard in a pinch if they need him to. I just don't see Brett Toth being that guy.
We agree on that. All right, Geoff Mosher from the Inside the Birds podcast, Football at 4, here on the Sports Bash. 1 preseason game left to go. It is on Friday night. You can hear the game right here on 97.3 ESPN. The Eagles and Jets, the pregame coverage starts at 6:30. The kickoff at 7:30. Inside the Birds podcast, available on all podcasting platform, has all your Eagles, Jets coverage ready to go for the final 53 before the opener. Geoff Mosher, we'll talk to you Wednesday, man.
All right, Mike. Take care.